You're conservative? What does that mean to you?
Well, I think the foundation of it is understanding the American project. Our rights come from God, not from the government. The founders rejected the divine right of kings, and it used to be some people did have rights, but it was a courtesy of the state. So that's not how our system works. We have these God-given rights. We loan power to the government under a constitution to protect those rights. And I think that what we've seen in more modern society is we've seen an unmooring of those constitutional foundations. We have an administrative state which is totally out of control. It violates people's freedoms. It's really been weaponized against factions of the country that the ruling class doesn't like. And we need to reconstitutionalize this government. But what we're facing now, I think, is not what the founders intended in terms of how this government should be operating.
These principles are throughout this book. So my question to you is this. You went to Yale. You went to Harvard Law. You grew up under very modest means. You were a great baseball player. But through all this, particularly Yale and Harvard, how did you maintain your principles, faith, belief in God, these conservative principles? Was it your parents? What was it?
Well, I talk in the book about, so I grew up in a town called Dunedin, Florida, which is in the Tampa, St. Petersburg area. My parents, my father's from Western Pennsylvania, my mother's from Northeastern Ohio. So that is like steel country, that is like blue collar, salt of the earth. And as you know, Mark, Florida is very eclectic. People kind of come from all over. We do have a culture, and so I grew up in that culture, but really it was kind of those Rust Belt values that raised me. I get to Yale, I had no idea what I was getting into. I didn't even know colleges were liberal. I mean, I was like 18 years old. I show up my first day, and in Florida, we would wear things like jean shorts, flip-flops, and a t-shirt. So I show up my first day wearing that, and you've got kids from Andover and Groton, and I was a fish out of water, and it was a major, major culture shock. I wasn't like a refined conservative in terms of politics, because I was mostly into sports and things like that. But you start sitting in some of these classrooms, and even though one of Yale's mottos is for God, for country, for Yale, sit in the classroom attacking religion, attacking God, attacking the United States. I'm sitting in class and they're saying that the U.S. was to blame for the Cold War, not Joseph Stalin. So this is and I had never experienced that because growing up in Dunedin, I didn't know if people were Republican or Democrat. You know, you had both of them, but everyone kind of believed in the core American principles. And so that was my exposure to the left. And I think what it did for me was it was so different from what I thought was appropriate that I wasn't influenced by it in terms of it pulling me in that direction. I rebelled the other way. So by the time I got through college and law school, you know, I was definitely set. Although when I was running for Congress, I kind of tell the story in the book. I was green. I had never run before. You know, I had kind of an impressive resume. I had served in Iraq and done things. So there were things that conservative primary voters would like. But, you know, you see Yale and Harvard, that is like people say, you know, liberal elitist stuff. And so the question was, how do I prove that I'm actually mean what I say? And I was like, listen, how many people that you know go up to Washington, they say they're going to do these things, and then the swamp co-opts them, and they end up not following principle? Well, listen, look at me. I got through Yale and Harvard and came out more conservative than when I went in. The swamp's going to have nothing on that, and they appreciated that. And so all this stuff in these universities at the time was very left. I think it's gotten a lot worse, but it was very left. But I always told myself, none of this will fly in the real world because you get out there, this is all just pie in the sky stuff. Well, I think, though, the joke was actually on me because I think what we see with a lot of the woke ideology and all these institutions in society, this is a reflection of what a lot of these universities have produced over the last generation. And so we're reaping a lot of what was sowed in those classrooms 10, 15, 20, 25 years ago.